Hi everyone, Roger here, and I just wanted to come on live and do a short video talking about uh, energy harvesting in social media and how you can recognize it, because you can be harvested without even recognizing that that's going on. So it's good to point out how to recognize those who are doing that on any social media platform that you may be on. And let me give me 1 second. The camera is not is sort of trying to figure out a way to focus here. Let's shed a little bit more light. And maybe if I right here, hopefully, okay, that looks like it's it'll work. And so it's very important to recognize what that looks like, so that you can recognize and cut directly away from it. And so I'll give a quick example. I won't make this too long. I'll give you a quick example of how I recognize that. The first thing you'll notice is the person will have the poster will have a very sort of very catchy, very eye-catching, very controversial subject that will get people to participate. And what they're looking for is someone to oppose them. And if you disagree with them, there'll be a little discussion. And then, if you are arguing in a very logistical and convincing way, and others are seeing your point of view as one that is the most sensible, then the poster will do something to trigger you to try to throw you off. And that trigger is often the point at which they're trying to harvest, because they're actually not looking for many people to agree with them. They're looking for those who disagree, because those are the ones that can be triggered very easily and goaded, because they can start rousing you and start really making really silly and disparaging remarks about your comments, or asking you questions that don't make any sense to try to throw you off. And when you recognize it, if you're in the mindset that you're trying to convince that person, you will be triggered into a little bit of anger or frustration. And that's when the harvesting begins. And they will keep picking at you. And you'll sit there and you'll keep answering back. And all the while, they're harvesting all that energy from you. So I'll give you an example of this, where I recognized this. The other day, I was in a group, and someone had posted a picture of Baphomet. Now, Baphomet is a being with a goat's head and sort of like a human body, and then the body of the lower body of a goat. And the Baphomet symbol is something, according to the Satanic Temple, and not just them, but other sites. You can Google this. You see this Baphomet, so you'll probably recognize the minute you see it. It's been featured in almost everything. Heavy metal albums, rock and roll albums feature that particular symbol quite often, and you'll see it in a lot of places. And now they've kind of made it really friendly looking by turning it into a little cartoonish being that will appeal to children. Okay, you can even go on the internet and check that one out. So, no matter how you feel about Baphomet, that's not really the point. I use this because this is the latest example of how I was able to not be harvested while still making a comment, but cutting it off right at the point where they think they're going to trigger me and create a little harvesting fest for themselves and whatever being they're serving. So this is, I'll give the example because and I'll paint a picture, because doing that is better than just flat out just talking about it. Now, I commented that Baphomet and that symbol, which I believe isn't really a being, it was made by a group of occultists serving nefarious dark beings to create a avenue and a way for you to give your power away. And once you give your power away, you're then basically authorizing yourself to be put on the food trough or the trough of the platter to be harvested and fed upon. Basically, that's what happens when you give your power away to any of these beings, because they need you more than you need them. But they have convinced many of us that it's the other way around. That it's the other way around. So it's very important to know who you are so you don't fall for these little traps here and there. So to get along to the subject, I simply made a comment. The Baphomet is a symbol created by a few who intended it as a way of getting people to give their power away and distracting them from themselves. The true power resides within you and within your spirit especially. So he commented, and the setup for the harvesting started with the first comment. No, here's what he says. No, that view is corrupt. We need the Baphomet because each symbol stands for something, and there's the wings, the arms, the pointing, the pointing, law of correspondence, what up, so above, so below, so above, as within, so without, that law. It shows a hand pointing this way and one of his hands pointing that way, referring to that. And there's a meaning to every little symbol part of that being's body. And supposedly, this is how we came into existence, of course, created by this thing. And we need it because without any one of its aspects, and of course it has a light and a dark aspect, and of course they always go, oh, you have to be balanced with the light and the dark. And there's a confusion about what is dark. Darkness is simply a means of not knowing, so that you can know and then be brought into the light, because only in the light, in the darkness, do you grow. But we've equated the darkness with evil. And darkness and evil are two different things. They're not one and the same. Light and dark are polar opposites, and they are in the same spectrum. You must have the dark to have the light, and you must have the light to have the dark. But you do not need the evil. So understand the distinction between dark and evil. Most of this universe is made of dark matter. Dark matter is where everything is created. You were created and had to come here through the womb of the feminine, a womb of a woman, through 9 months of darkness. 9 months of darkness, not 9 months of evil. Okay, so let's really be clear about the distinction between darkness and evil. Now, so I said to him, not really. It is my spirit that is responsible for my being here. My spirit is connected to the universal creator. Okay? The universal creator, of which I'm a spark. And there isn't any other being that's responsible for me other than myself connected to my heart, which is where my divine self resides, which is where the connection to the divine resides, which is the connection to the universal mother and father, which are the true creators, and they would have not have anything to do with any god or anything created down here in this hologram. Okay, so I sort of made that distinction. And of course he comes back. You're absolutely wrong, blah, blah, blah. And of course I'm not having a problem. You don't have to agree with me. And then I said, and then he said, oh, we need the Baphomet because we have to remember where we come from and our roots and all that. And I said, no, I don't come from any figment of some person's imagination so that they can take my energy and feed it to their parasitic entities, the parasitic entities that they're worshiping. And I turn around and worship and become a minion for them as well. And so he turned around and said, well, what are you now? Are you a Luciferian? Totally made no sense to what we're talking about. That is the trigger. They will say things that not only disagree with you, because to disagree with you is not good enough. they have to take your points and belittle them. So it starts with a belittling, and then it turns into uh, totally making what you say insignificant or an attempt to do so, and then throwing something completely out of left field in the middle to trigger you into anger, frustration, whatever it is that you're accustomed to giving up, and then the harvesting begins. So as soon as you see the trigger, you know to not say a thing and leave the conversation. So another clue is when you're speaking and responding to people, first of all, I would say it's best to not even respond to them. But sometimes you want to throw some energy into something because you don't want others to just fall for the trap. So you respond. And when you respond, this is the main key. You do not respond to the person who is trying to trigger. You respond to everyone in the group. That way, it's not a direct personal thing that you're doing. You're speaking to everyone in the group. Right? You're not talking to the attacker, everyone. Now, the person that's triggering and trying to harvest is going to get the message, but you don't restrict it to them. Because what you want to do is speak to the larger audience and get their attention as to what's going on. That's all you want to do. Once you've done that, you're done. And the minute you start, the minute that person's arguments are laying real flat, and others are starting to agree with you, they will throw this thing out of left field, like calling me a Luciferian. At which point, I never answered. I said, that to me is the point where I leave the conversation because everything I need to say is already been said, done. They get to sit with that without getting any reward for trying to harvest and trying to turn you into a victim, because that's basically what it is, and trying to control you, because it's an attempt for them to get you to do what it is that they want. So this is a perfect example, one of them, of recognizing when people are trying to harvest you. First of all, there's a very, 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 very controversial or triggery type of subject matter, or a clickbait kind of subject matter, and then you'll have a bunch of people agree, and then they will just like what those people agree, or they'll give a short answer, and they're waiting for the opposer, because that's the person that can be easily triggered. So when you know something like this, you just go, this is one of them. I'm going to address this, but I'm just going to do it in a way, very calm, very collected. And when you're finished, just move on. And when they trigger, you just leave them there. You do not have to participate any longer. That's it. So this is very important because this happens all of the time in social media, all the time. And if you're not aware of it, you'll fall victim to those traps, and they will latch onto you, and you'll be thinking about the subject all day long, and they will change your mood, and all the while, even after you go away, they're feeding on your energy because you have emotionally opened up to them. That's the key. Do not emotionally open up to them. You can respond, stay calm, and okay, I made my point. I'm done, gone, out of here. Okay, so I really wanted to make that quick point and information, so that you can recognize this when it happens and cut it off at the path. All right, see you guys, and until the next video, sayonara, and remember to defy the taboo against finding out who you really are.